Welcome to the channel. I'm Stacy, and my goal here is to help you to play better and sound better in your worship services. Today we'll be going through the parts for the song Manger Throne by Phil Wickham. Now the tracks doesn't have us coming in for anything but choruses, but after listening to everything else that was going on for the rest of the song, I was able to come up with some tasteful stuff that didn't just give us something to do, but gave us parts to play that actually enhance and help to build the song. All right, let's get into it. So real quick, the first thing that I figured out was kind of these cool 2-note chords, and the intro for the song comes in on a walk-up, and the acoustic's doing some finger picking, and so we're just hitting on the main landings for that chord progression. And so our part comes in like this. So we're fretting the low E open, the G open, the low E at the 2nd fret, and the G at the 2nd fret. So that's going to be an E minor to an F sharp minor. And then the low E at the 3rd fret, the G at the 4th, that's a G chord. And then the A open and the G open. I'm sorry. The A at the 2nd fret, that's going to reference a B minor, kind of a walk up. It's a common thing in the key of G. And then the A at the 3rd fret with that G chord open. We're going to repeat that one more time. Everything's the same until we land on that C chord. On the second pass, we're going to fret the A at the 3rd fret and the B at the 1st fret, giving that C chord a little bit more sparkle. With all the effects, that part will sound like this. Coming out of that, we're into our first verse, and it's similar. We're going to be open on the E chord, open on the G, 2nd fret for both of those, 3rd on the low E, 4th on the G, and then we're going to fret the A at the 3rd fret, the G open, be like this. Back to the 3rd fret on the low E, 4th on the G. We do that one more time, only this time we do this resolve similar to the intro, where it's the A at the 2nd, the A at the 3rd, also fretting that open G. This whole part repeats, and then we have a pre-chorus. And so the pre-chorus starts with the A and G string fretted at the 5th fret, and then open. And then we're going to fret the D string open and the B string fretted at the 3rd fret. That repeats one more time, and then we go into our first chorus. So with all the effects, I will run through the chorus one time. It's just repeated the same way, and then into that pre-chorus. Coming out of that, we're into our first chorus. And so for this chorus, and the choruses are all different. This is the most different. There's the other ones start off similar, at least in a similar part of the neck. So we're going to be on our G and B strings at the 12th fret. And then we're going to have the G at the 12th, the B at the 13th. And then we're going to slide down the G at the 9th, the B at the 8th. I'm going to do that twice. It's a similar pattern. And then the preset for this one, however you set it up, the way I did it is the repeats are pretty loud and they're actually replicating that pick. And so you'll hear it when I kick on the effects. Down to the 7th fret. And then the G at the 4th, the B at the 3rd, 2 times. And then we have a walk up, the G and B at the 5th, at the 7th, and then the G at the 9th, the B at the 8th. Back down to the 2 strings at the 5th fret, the G at the 4th, the B at the 3rd, and then both strings at the 7th fret. Coming out of that, we're going to play a similar melody to what we've been doing at the intro and the verses. The G at the 9th, the 11th, the 12th, and then the D at the 9th and the D at the 10th. So with all the effects, that chorus will sound like this. Second verse, and for that one, to break it up and to give a little bit of a different feel to the song, we're going to be fretting our D string at the 5th fret. We're going to be palm muting this and playing 16th notes, so it's going to be 5, 7, 9, 10, 9, 5, 7, 9, and then the A string 5 and 7. And so it'll sound like this as far as the timing goes. We do that twice, and then we're going to be raking a couple of chords. We're going to rake an A minor, fretting the D at the 7th fret, the G and B at the 5th, an E minor, fretting the D and G at the 9th, the B at the 8th, and then a D sus4, G and a D and G at the 7th, B at the 8th, and then a regular D, just changing that D from the 8th to all those fretted at the 7th. And so that verse into that kind of pre-chorus will sound like this. Our next chorus, and this one's a bit different than the last one. We're going to be playing a G chord, fretting our D string at the 5th fret, our high E at the 7th. Move that high E up to the 8th for a D sus4, back to the 7th, and then an E minor chord with our A fretted at the 7th, our G at the 8th, and then a D chord with our A fretted at the 5th, our G at the 7th. And then we're going to be on a B minor, fretting the A at the 2nd fret, that's a B note, and the B string at the 3rd fret. And then another walk up. This is going to be a C, D, E minor walk up. So fretting the A at the 3rd, the B at the 5th, up to the A at the 5th, the B at the 7th. The A at the 7th, the B at the 8th, back down to the A at the 3rd, B at the 5th, the A at the 2nd, B at the 3rd, and then up to the D chord, A at the 5th, B at the 7th. And then we're going to slide up and pluck a B string at the 12th fret. So with all the effects, that'll sound like this. Now we're into our first bridge, and it's a down bridge, so we're out for this one. And then when it does come in, we're going to be playing more of those open chords with just the 2 notes with a nice low note and a high note. We're going to start, I believe, on a C chord, so A at the 3rd fret, B at the 5th, A at the 5th, B at the 7th is next. We're going to go C, D, E That's the C, D, 5th fret on the A, 7th on the B, E minor, A at the 9th, or I'm sorry, A at the 7th, B at the 8th. Back down to that B minor, A at the 2nd, B at the 3rd. And we repeat that, and that goes through 2 times, and then we kick on an overdrive, and then we're going to fret that root note. So the A at the 3rd fret, the 5th fret, the 7th fret, and then we're going to come up to the 10th fret and the 9th fret, and we really want to drive that. And then that's going to be with a kind of a high repeat. Actually, no, that's our snapshot 2. I right away kicked over to the snapshot 3 and then kicked on that overdrive. And snapshot 3 just has louder repeats, so you hear that kind of decaying out, and it sounds real cool. And so with all the effects, that will sound like this. Something like that. Coming out of that, we're into our last chorus section, and we're going to start similar to the last one with the D string at the 5th, the B at the high E at the 7th, and then the A at the 5th, the B at the 7th, down to that B minor, the A at the 2nd, the B at the 3rd, and then we're doing that walk up, the A at the 3rd, B at the 5th, A at the 5th, B at the 7th, A at the 7th, B at the 8th, the A at the 5th, B at the 3rd, I'm sorry, A at the 3rd, B at the 5th, got that backwards, back to the B minor, A at the 2nd, B at the 3rd, up to A at the 5th, B at the 7th, up to the B at the 12th, and then we come down to the A at the 2nd, the B at the 3rd, and then we play that walk up, A at the 3rd, B at the 5th, A at the 5th, B at the 7th, A at the 7th, B at the 8th, back down to the 3rd and 5th on the A and B, the 2nd and 3rd, the 5th and 7th, and then back one more time, A at the 3rd, B at the 5th, A at the 2nd, B at the 3rd, A at the 5th, B at the 7th, and then we have a walk-up we're going to do similar to the one we did before, as far as it's going to start out the same, G at the 9th, 11th, and 12th, A at the 9th, and then the 10th. And then we repeat that one more time, the first part, 9, 11, 12 on the G, and then on the B string, 12 and 13. So with all of the effects, that whole last chorus section will sound like this. We're also, we'll have the overdrive on, which we didn't for the first choruses, but once we blew up on that last bridge, we're going to keep that energy going, and part of that is just by maintaining that overdrive. So it'll sound like this. I hope you found this one helpful. If you did, subscribe and hit that like button for good measure. If you'd like the resources for this song, you'll find them at a link in the description box below. There are a handful of downloads free for you in there as well. All right, hope you have a great week, and I'll see you in the next one.